All right, everyone, it is review time, and we are going to be reviewing all about Cloud today. That is what the topic of the video is, so let's talk about Cloud. And my evaluation for Cloud comes on two fronts. In the same way of, I think, most of the FF7 characters will be evaluated. The evaluation is partially on their kit as a whole, but I am also evaluating their individual thing that makes them very special. Tifa had a really good counter and was a strike damage unit, which is pretty rare, but there is something special with Cloud 2, which is his critical mechanic. Basically, if he uses an ability and he ends up hitting an enemy for a critical, he can get some AP back. Think of it like kind of like a rebate kind of thing. And to that extent, I do have to evaluate both of these things. So my overall opinion, getting it right out of the way, is pretty positive about Cloud. But I do want to talk about the AP regen off criticals first, because it was one of the most exciting things about Cloud. The idea that he could potentially crit, or, in the fact, we knew in his kit early that he had triple hit abilities, that he had AoE abilities, and the idea, like, wow, if he could catch maybe 6 enemies in an AoE, maybe he could regenerate a lot of AP. That is not the case. And that is really where a lot of my disappointment stems, because I have no doubt, look, when we evaluate the rest of Cloud's kit, that he's going to be determined as just being incredibly strong, as being a major unit used in all sword comps going forward, and so on and so forth. But his through testing and checking with other members of my guild on the JP side, it has been found out that even if Cloud does get a multiple criticals off a single AoE attack, or if he gets criticals in his chain ability, and by that I mean like plural, the most he ever regens is 10 AP. And I have to say, that takes one of the most interesting, unique things about Cloud, and kind of just lessens it a bit. Like, obviously, it is one of those things where it's just like, you find out you're going to a Disney place for your birthday, and then you find out that it's actually just the video store that has a lot of Disney movies. Like, it's not bad, you still get to watch a Disney movie if you like Disney movies, but honestly, it's a little disappointing that you're not going to Disneyland or Disney World. It just doesn't feel quite as special. Alright, so honestly, the AP regen falls pretty short for me. 10 AP or 10 AP back off of any ability is fine, but I don't think that it's really that incredible. So while I am going to talk very, positive things about Cloud, I do think that I have to get the big disappointment out of the way. Alright, so Cloud's first job is Soldier, secondary job is Ranger, and third job is, not Ninja, that's someone else, Nightblade. Now, let's get Nightblade out of the way first. It has the increased Pierce and Missile Resistance, a couple of the damage abilities around him, the one with Stun, he can absorb AP, and he has the increased Slash and Defense Penetration buff that is known for Nightblades. However, he does not have the triple hit heal himself, which is a disappointment for Nightblade. I mean, it is his third job, but it would have been really nice to see that ability there. Looking at Ranger, he has ways to inflict poison, 100% hit chance off of his abilities, increase evasion while decreasing some stat for all attack resistance and all elemental resistance for a single turn to himself. He has the large diamond AoE for Rangers. So Rangers do give him some good attacks, and honestly, if you think about it, you could synergize that very nicely with a specific other Thunder Elemental Ranger, or, a sniper. So there is some good range synergy potentially, since, this element does have access to that. I don't think you're going to use it a ton of times, but it is there, so that is nice. And taking a look at his main job, alright, so we have an ability that decreases Slash resistance by 25% for 3 turns. It is single target. Has a 121% modifier. Critical rate by 20 for himself. That's great since, his kit does kind of... It is trying to get criticals a lot of the time. So that's nice. He can increase his area of resistance by 25 for 3 turns. And all at the cost of decreasing his evasion rate by 20, but I don't think that's what Cloud is. I don't think Cloud is an evasion character. Taking a look at other things, he has a 100% hit chance with a critical chance of 35%. When he gets into his 120 ability, that does, interestingly enough, get a increase in its critical chance to 999% critical chance. So yeah, it basically, that's his triple hit ability, and I think that's really incredible in his level 120 that he does get basically a way to just deal that much damage and still get 100% hit chance. All of that is very good. Taking a look, he can increase other units' attack centered around himself by 40% for 3 turns, and also restore AP when critical for allies as well as himself. Now, this ability, if you have a team of criticals, this is the only way I can think that you really leverage this ability, because you're essentially only getting 10. Again, it's a small rebate, and it could be the difference between winning and defeat, but I just find it a little sad that ability isn't better than it. 200% modifier with a 25% chance to inflict paralyze for 3 turns to a target. That also gets upgraded, going from a 200% modifier to a 240% modifier. And last but not least, he does have something called Mega Slash, which is a diamond pattern AoE around him, hits everything in there. That has also a critical chance of 35%, so a real way to rack up a lot of damage if Cloud is just surrounded, and it's probably pretty strong. Sub part of the job has a 165% modifier that can also has a chance to stun for a single turn when performing a critical hit, and a 25% chance to inflict blindness for 3 turns on a spread AoE, one of the ones that's like a diamond pattern that can go in the 4 directions. So Cloud's main job has some really good stuff and some really strong stuff. When I was talking about Tifa, I said that I couldn't imagine really ever not running her as Monk. With Cloud, I think you're probably going to be running him as Soldier almost all of the time. But Nightblade, really for the buff and increase to slash attack and defense penetration, is probably worth running. So, you know what? No, I've changed my mind. Right in the middle of this video, I'm going to say that you probably want to run Nightblade just for that buff, if nothing else. Alright, counters. His main job's counter is a chance to counter physical damage, 30% with 121% attack back. But it doesn't really matter. He also has the Nightblade counter to counter physical damage, but you're almost always certainly going to be running Reflex on this guy, chance to counter all damage at 15% with a 200% chance to evade physical or magical. Yeah, this is important. I think it's the only counter that you would probably run. And looking at support, in his soldier job, he has an HP increase and a defense penetration increase while decreasing evasion rate. However, you're definitely going to be running this because a 12% HP increase is not anything major, but a 60 defense penetration that is constantly active, there's no way that you're not ever running that ability. So yeah, that's incredibly strong. The second ability for that is a movement increase by 1 and a 24% attack increase for himself, which is why he currently has 4 that you can see on the stats screen here. 2 very strong support abilities in his main kit. For his hunter, he gets the range increase and accuracy increase, and he also gets the decreased activation time and increase missile attack, while Nightblade ends up giving him an attack increase by 30% for self and an increase in accuracy with a decrease of evasion. And last but not least, to talk about his limit burst. See if I can't bring it up. There it is. Large damage, break a physical barrier for the target, decrease critical evasion by 50 for 3 turns when fully maxed, and a 200% modifier at 43 AP. Really kind of, I think this ability is almost ever just going to be exclusively really useful on bosses. But if you give it Alphac, like in early testing, I've been seeing that Cloud just does so much damage that like he's literally during early testing of admittedly level 60 stages, he can just deal out pretty much damage cap level stuff, especially when critically. So Cloud is just incredibly powerful, even though his attack never reaches the stats that we've seen with Velric. He is no slouch when it comes to dealing damage, and that's also because of the Buster Sword too, in which case you can see here 170 attack and a 30 factor for thunder damage and 15 for slash. This weapon is definitely built for him in the way that the Thunder Sword is just really good too. And the last thing to talk about before I talk about some other stuff to do with resistance and everything, taking a look at Cloud for his TMR. Now, as you can see, it's an armor 477. It's not classified as a heavy armor as far as I know. Defense and Spirit of 8, critical avoid of 10. Decrease AP consumption by 25 for 3 turns. So really, I think you kind of want to run this TMR on Cloud just in combination with the critical ability, and that ends up working out pretty well. He discounts a lot of stuff for multiple turns, and then he can just, use this, also get a little bit of AP back, and that probably covers it. I don't think it's quite as effective. Again, I really wanted to see AP consumption or AP generation being much higher, but with the TMR you can kind of see why it isn't. A little disappointing. Can't get over it. Alright, now let's talk about Cloud survivability. I'll give you a second, pause the video if you want to take a look at these stats. Alright, and now we're going to take a look at resistances, and something to note here is that strike as well as magic are giant problems for Cloud. And so this is the moment where I'm going to take time to talk about counters versus Cloud. If you don't run an accuracy buff and there was an evasion unit by the name of Ketone, Drain Force does get by reflex, and Ketone's Drain Force on Charlotte, the new level 120 tank, could deal roughly about 8,000 points of damage. So it is very possible that Ketone is already a direct counter to Cloud. Xmas Venera, or Winter Venera, as she's probably known on Global, is also a unit that could probably pose a good amount of threat to Cloud. And last but not least is Rule, who, if you don't know who Rule is, unfortunately I can't show you her because I do not have her on my JP account. She is a long pink-haired girl with the brand new Scholar class. She will appear after Lord Mont, and she is an Earth Elemental Mage who is very good against physical enemies. Her Earth Elemental damage plus magic would be a complete and direct counter to Cloud, especially because she is more defensive against physical units. So there do exist already counters for Cloud. I think that he is very strong, but taking a look at his kit, there's a couple of big gaps for me. First of all, in terms of resistance, mages, Earth Elemental mages, I think are always going to be a problem for him. And I do think Ketone as well, with Drain Force just being as strong as it is in her level 120, can pose a significant threat and even get by this reflex thing, even though I think depending on reflex is not exactly the best strategy. Cross your fingers and pray. I feel like we could do a little bit better than that. But also taking a thing into Cloud 2, one of the problems is that in his kit, he really doesn't have any self-support. He doesn't have any healing HP-wise. He doesn't have... it seems like basically most of his kit, he's always just going to be tanking hits because he'll never really be that lucky to get an evasion, probably, without extensive testing. And no, I don't have Cloud yet. So my testing will be somewhat limited, and I'll be depending on, reports from other people. But honestly, Cloud is a strong character. He is a really strong character. Now we're going to be running him in the Buster Sword farming stage, not the highest difficulty, because I am running a limited party to try and give the most attention to Cloud as possible. We're just running Yuna and Lord Mont here as a potential buffer zone, so things don't go incredibly long. As you guys know, I don't like editing my videos, and well, a really fun fact is I just don't want this to go absolutely off. So there's Cloud's AP generation ability, also available on Lord Mont too, although I don't think we're going to be seeing him do a ton of damage. Guard Scorpion as a fight, FYI, just really likes using this barrier breaker, this barrier former, since Cloud's limit burst is based on barrier breaking, and so is Tifa. That seems to be a pretty common mechanic in both of these characters, or a common mechanic between both of these characters, I should say. So, yeah, Cloud, this is one of those things where when I start giving my opinion, someone's going to get annoyed with me. But, heck with it, right? I do think that Cloud is a very strong character and does have a lot of good stuff in his kit. From what I can tell with his AI, it does have a few issues. We're really going to try and prod Cloud into getting this. But we are getting a good demonstration of Lord Mont. Hey, this is also now a review for Lord Mont. We're keeping it casual today. Alright, go get him, Cloud. Hey, we're even going to get to see his limit burst on screen. And it should be noted that Cloud, as well as Tifa at this point, do have voices in their characters. So I know that is a sticking point for some people. They've been wanting to see collaboration characters with voices. Well, good news, here it is. And we are seeing against Earth Elemental, we're also seeing a little bit of chaining. That would be his Mega Slash. As you can see, he hit multiple enemies, got good damage on all of them, but did not get more than 10 AP critical. And again, his AP seems, pretty good. As you can see, it's pretty reliable with how much he is able to crit. But also from his AI, you could see that he was really interested in using the AP generation ability as a buff, and his AI was not super interested in using his critical self-up buff, and also not his TMR ability. So both of those are also slightly concerning, that his AI may be a little too gung-ho. Like the priority doesn't seem incredibly smart, as it just seems to want to spam that ability, which is great that's his central ability, and it really should be used primarily a lot, but I just don't, I'm not super enthusiastic about it. Other than that, final notes, Cloud had a paid step up with no guarantee 1 in 4 at 25, a 25% chance of getting him on the third step. And other than that, he just has a primary banner that also shares an up with the Tifa card. So that's basically a general look here at everything to do with Final Fantasy VII's first two characters. I've covered both Tifa and Cloud now. To note, I'll just give a final summary of Cloud. Very strong sword character. I haven't mentioned this, and it's coming in at the end, so my bad. However, with the 60 primarily in his kit for defense penetration, if you combine that with vision cards as well as the Nightblade buff, as well as potentially even Old Doa's TMR, you have a unit that can reach well over 100 defense penetration, which is absolutely massive in terms of swords being able to deal with tanks such as Warrior of Light and Lord Mont. That is to me anyway, that does speak worlds about how good Cloud actually is and how important he is for anyone who has a sword-focused account. However, with that being said, I do think that the AP regeneration mechanic does fall short and is dependent. Like, its true value is really going to be getting other units to use it as well, which means you have to build a lot of other units as critical. And, you know, building weapons in this game, not the fastest thing. So it is one of those things where I think Cloud is, like, if you are planning on using swords for the long future, if you're heavily invested in Gilgamesh and potentially Lord Mont, or any sword character, I think that Cloud is kind of a must-get for you. But man, I wish that AP generation just was a little more broken, so it could be really cool. Don't feel like it's a broken situation, let's put it that way. So anyway, Cloud, unbelievably strong, great get for swords as a whole, and honestly, I think his Limbiverse is pretty awesome, and his TMR is great too. So far we got 2 great Final Fantasy VII characters, and in about a week's time, we're going to be finding out about a few more. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you in the next one.